things changed after the World War II, when the classical psychoanalytic model was challenged by several very important authors and nowadays is not followed or not taken too seriously by a huge number of psychoanalysts, especially in the United States. So it started on both sides of the ocean, in England mostly by Donald Winnicott, and in the United States mostly by Harry Stack Sullivan and Heinz Kohut. And again, these are extremely important authors whose work I cannot do justice to in this brief presentation, but I'll focus just on this aspect of their contribution. When it comes to Winnicott, probably the most important thing about him is that he was a pediatrician. And he came to psychoanalysis with this unbelievably rich experience of spending time and helping actual mother-baby dyads. Some people believe that Winnicott had seen about 60,000 mother-infant dyads, which is incomparably more than any psychoanalyst will ever be able to treat, whether in adult or child analysis. And Winnicott came to believe that, as he wrote, there is no such thing as baby alone, there is always baby with the mother. And he believed that the most important fact about human beings is their dependence. That especially at the beginning of the life, none of us can survive alone, and we depend on other people, and the relationship with other people is the basic fact of our lives, not so much the drives, as Freud or Melanie Klein or many other authors would believe. And many people translated this into there is no such thing as an analyst alone, or there is no such thing as a patient alone, there is only patient and analyst together. And this is very obvious in all the descriptions of Winnicott's clinical work. We don't have many, but what we have testifies to the fact that he was always willing to adapt his technique so that he would be able to help this individual patient. That, for instance, in one interview, Enid Balint talks about asking Winnicott for analysis after Michael Balint's death, when she was already an analyst and in training analysis in the past and so on. And she went to Winnicott for a year, and he would allow her, so to say, to sit on the floor and cry and not say anything if she doesn't want or need to say anything. And if she would require, he would let her hold his hand. And many other examples of this can be found in recent publications, like the paper by James Anderson on how Winnicott conducted analysis, published in Psychoanalytic Psychology, in the journal Psychoanalytic Psychology, and the recent book Finding Piddle, which is Winnicott's name for one of his patients, published by Phoenix, I think last year. On the other side of the ocean, Harry Stack Sullivan and Kohut, in slightly different ways, came to the conclusion that the psychoanalytic ideals of complete distance and anonymity were first impossible and then potentially harmful for the patient. Impossible in terms that whatever we do is some sort of behavior and expression. If the analyst decides to be silent, that says something about that person. If the analyst decides to say, and then when will the analyst say it, in what way, with which tone of voice, and so on. All will be revealing about this person. And there are interesting testimonies, not frequent unfortunately, not frequent enough, by patients who say what they have concluded, what they have learned about their analysts during the analysis. Although analysts wouldn't say, their facial expressions or something else would reveal something about them. But not only that we cannot be robots, Kohut very specifically, very explicitly wrote, we shouldn't try to be completely distant, because many people come to psychotherapy because they suffer from not being accepted as children, from not feeling loved as children, from not feeling recognized when they tried to share their pain or traumatic experiences. And if they have hope to come to a psychotherapist and hope, finally, I will be able to overcome this with the help of this person, and we are completely distant and without facial expression and not sharing emotion, that can even be re-traumatizing. So starting probably 1960s, more and more psychoanalysts felt their contribution to the relationship was far more important than people believed before. Not just in terms of how we react to what patients feel or tell us or put pressure on us and so on, but in terms that, of course, like everyone else on the globe, we have the unconscious and feelings and insecurities and childhood memories and so on, and all of those play their part in the relationship. Now, a very important detail, or a formula, if you will, comes from Louis Aron, who, although being one of the most important representatives of relational psychoanalysis, insisted on it that the relationship remains at least slightly asymmetrical. The analyst has ethical codes, professional responsibilities, the focus on doing things that will be for the benefit of the patient. So there's a wide, very detailed discussion about the issue of disclosure. Will the analyst disclose anything during the session about the private life, experiences, what happened yesterday, what happened 30 years ago, which books I like, how I suffered when this happened to me? And the discussion is long. Again, I'm presenting it here very briefly. The final conclusion has to be that the analyst can share when appropriate and will be for the benefit of the patient. Not to talk about your own pain with the patient so that the patient should help you, but to share something if you think that will be inspiring or revealing or confronting the patient in a good way. So, to conclude, the relationship between the patient and the analyst remains the most important thing. It only in the contemporary approaches has become more important than before, if that's even possible, or we're more aware of its importance, but it has to be dealt with very carefully and always for the benefit of the patient.